15-year-old queen, a 10-year-old king, Cleopatra and her brother, Ptolemy. But the crown meant nothing on its own. To hold the throne, you needed an army, and even that was only half the battle. The other half she learned the hard way, when her own family forced her out of the palace. In that moment, Cleopatra understood something important. If she wanted the throne of Egypt, she would have to be smarter than everyone around her. Centuries before Cleopatra was born, Egypt had already fallen under Greek rule. When Alexander the Great conquered the region in the 4th century BC, one of his generals, Ptolemy, took control of Egypt and founded a new royal dynasty, the Ptolemies. As the Ptolemies ruled Egypt, they remained Greek in culture and tradition. To keep power inside the royal family, they adopted a tradition common in their dynasty: marriage within the family. Brothers married sisters, and sometimes two members of the dynasty ruled together, a king and queen, sharing the throne, at least in theory, because inside the Ptolemaic court, shared power rarely stayed peaceful, and this was the word Cleopatra inherited. When their father died in 51 BC, the throne passed to two heirs, Cleopatra and her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. They were meant to rule together, and according to the tradition of their dynasty, they were also expected to marry. Inside the palace, age, experience, and ambition mattered. At first, Cleopatra began ruling as if the throne already belonged to her. Royal decrees appeared in her name, and the young king was slowly pushed aside. But the crown alone did not control Egypt. The real power rested in three places: the army, the royal court, and the palace itself. And in all three, Cleopatra faced powerful opposition. The young king was surrounded by advisors who had no intention of losing their influence to a young queen. Among them were Pothinus, the king's regent, Theodotus, his tutor, and Achillas, commander of Egypt's army. Together, they turned the young king against his sister. Rumors spread through the palace, and the balance of power quickly shifted. Soon the queen found herself losing control of the very palace she ruled. When in 48 BC the court moved against her, the advisors seized control of the palace, and Cleopatra was forced from power. In the ancient world, that meant her life was now in danger. So Cleopatra fled. Leaving Alexandria behind, the young queen escaped eastward, toward the frontier of Egypt. Beyond Egypt's frontier, Cleopatra did not disappear. She crossed into the eastern Mediterranean, into the lands of Syria. Exile often meant the end of power, but Cleopatra still possessed two things her enemies could not easily take from her: a royal claim to Egypt and the wealth of Ptolemaic dynasty. Far from Alexandria, she began rebuilding her position. With the gold she had carried with her and support from the merchants and regional allies, Cleopatra started gathering soldiers willing to fight for her return. In that era, armies were often built with gold, and Cleopatra still had gold. Greek mercenaries and veteran soldiers gradually joined her cause. Months later, the queen who had fled Alexandria was no longer simply a refugee. She now had an army, so Cleopatra began moving south. Her forces followed the coastal routes through the lands near Gaza, toward the eastern gateway of Egypt, Pelusium. For centuries, this city guarded the road into the Nile Delta. But when Cleopatra reached the frontier, her brother's army was already waiting. Two rulers, two armies, and one throne. Yet Cleopatra did not attack, because she understood something important. Winning Egypt would require more than soldiers, and soon, events far beyond Egypt's borders would give her the opportunity she needed.